Maybe start just with Gene Krupa cymbals. These.
I have two sets of cymbals. One actually belonged to Gene, and they were reported to be possibly 10 sets. Gene was a very good friend of A. Zildjian's, and so he would go into the factory and he'd put together an entire set. They'd wrap them in brown paper, and he had like 10 sets stacked up in his garage. Well, this is one of those. It's a sort of an 18, almost 19-inch ride cymbal, all A. Zildjian's, 18-inch crash. Actually, the ride cymbal is closer to 20. 14-inch hi-hats, 8-inch splash cymbal. All of them have his initials, GK, engraved in the cymbals. I used those for the one Krupa cut, which you've heard, Gypsy Mood, and then one other of the Woody Herman things. The other set of cymbals, which I think are even more interesting, these were set, there was a guy who was a good friend, and I still see his wife often. His name is Ed Mishler, and Ed knew that I collected Radio Kings, got in touch with me. He was career CIA. I mean, he started when it was still the OSS, but he was also a drummer. He was studying in New York with Sanford Moeller at the same time that Gene was, in the late 30s, early 40s. 1941, he bought a set of Radio Kings, which was 26, two 9x13 toms, 16, and he asked Gene to go with him to the Zildjian factory and pick out a set of cymbals that Gene would have gotten for himself. These cymbals are just identical to the stuff that Gene used with Benny, with his early big band, all the way up until he started playing a ride cymbal, which had to be, 43, 44, the post, maybe even later, 44. I guess it was his Andre Kostelanetz complex band. And they're just beautiful. They're all signed A's. They're thin as paper, but there are pictures of them on the MySpace site I have, but they're all over the place, because there's one shot that I use as a PR shot, which is me at that drum set, and those are those cymbals, and they were all Gene's 12-inch. I mean, not Gene's, but he picked them out for Ed Mishler, and Ed also gave me, Moeller in those days built a practice pad for each one of his students and put his nameplate on the base of the pad. I have the one that he gave to Ed Mishler, so that's the story, and they're great cymbals. I love them.
How did you get Gene's set?
That was through a good buddy up in New England, who also was the way that I actually acquired two snare drums that belonged to Gene. And I also acquired three in the 40s, when it was what some call the best Krupa band, was the Anita, Roy Eldridge period, the first one. The band had, each band member, their music stand, band fronts, each one had a 7x11 Radio King tom-tom mounted on the stand, which they all played. They were all functioning tom-toms. I own three of those. And the cool thing is that they have each generation of the mounting system that was used in that period of the 40s, starting with the 3-bolt single post, then the 2-bolt swivel mount, then the Ray McKinley, what they called a rail consolette. Each one of the sets of holes are there for each time they change that.